it's very easy to identify when the negative voice is talking sometimes. Not always, because sometimes it runs on autopilot and we just get so used to it that it's like, oh, there that is again. And we start to believe that it's our own voice. So it's like training ground one is beginning to identify the voice that is not your voice. It's the voice of that inner critic and understanding how to silence it there and create a different dialogue, much like you would with a kid, right? Who you're not always going to listen to a 2-year-old that's having a temper tantrum. And that's a lot of what's happening when your inner critic is kind of at its full force, right? It wants something that you may not necessarily desire to give it. So learning to have a differentiation between that kind of level, okay, I am not that negative voice that keeps going in my head. So here are the superpowers that I'm going to begin to use. And here is my arsenal of tools that I can pull out and my weapons that I can use in order to do that. But then, of course, it's a supervillain. It's going to learn that, okay, you've caught on to that. You've caught on to my temper tantrums. You now know. And so I'm going to mature as you mature. And I'm going to grow stronger as you grow stronger. And as you just pointed out, then it is going to find a different front to come at you from and say, okay, you going to catch me now? You going to get this? And that's where it can actually be almost beneficial because it's making you stronger. It's keeping you on your toes. And that's again where we go back to those wonderful comic books or superhero movies, if you tend to watch more movies, or any hero's journey movie, right? Because then that puts you in this space where you're not constantly on the defense. That's not what this is about. It is about you consistently looking at how can I expand my skills? How can I expand my superpowers to rise up and be the best that I can be? So how are you expanding your skills? You mentioned the pause. So what are you doing to catch yourself real time and be in the pause?
It's a tough one. Practice, really. That's my only direct answer right now. It's hard to catch yourself real time until you start catching yourself in real time. And even to get to that point, it's taken me a while. And feel like you've noticed on my off days or days that I'm feeling that it's just even yesterday when in the morning I was struggling and with my words and real time I was like, I'm realizing this as it's happening right now, that I'm attempting to put something out to you and it is not coming out of my face. Yeah. Exactly. And so real time, instead of getting frustrated with you for not understanding me, or instead of getting frustrated with myself for not being able to do something that should be pretty easy. In the moment, it felt really difficult. And so just allowing myself to sit with it and do my best to explain hey, I'm struggling in speaking right now. So I'm going to take a pause right now and I'm not going to talk for a little bit. And, let's hold this thought, and nothing right now is overarching a need to discuss that. We can't just wait, 15 minutes to half an hour or however long it takes for me to just kind of pull back inward, get clarity, reset, and then have an effective approach moving forward. And so that just takes practice, and it will continue to be, and it will probably always be to a degree. As we talk about, mastery isn't the completion of it. It's just a shorter time frame. And so now I might be in the middle or the end of the conversation till I realize it. And maybe it'll be, once the first couple words come out and they're not as I intend, I'll be able to be like, oh, okay, now it doesn't make sense to go any further. Let me pause and I'll get back to you on this. And so that would probably be a level of mastery that I'm looking to get to.
Well, as you mentioned, the inner critic now is kind of that feeling for you, that time, that pressure feeling. Then the other, your inner champion, will become a feeling as well, I would estimate, because a feeling and a feeling have to meet one another to rise, right? So you'll be able to feel it and meet it before it even occurs. I don't know. I'm not inside what is going on in your inner realm, but that is what I would estimate because I've felt something very similar. And then being able to pull back and effectively communicate before it happens versus as it's happening may be the level that you get to. Do you feel like it was helpful to be able to have someone you could lean on, like the other, whether it's people in your chair, gal in your chair in this case, to be able to communicate and lean on someone and say, "Hey, I don't even know what's happening right now, but this is where I'm at." Do you feel like that plays a part at all? Because it could be a different outcome if you're surrounded by individuals who aren't like in that same superhero realm, if you will, and really don't have the same concept. And so now you're out of alignment with your communication and you want to say, I don't know what I'm saying right now. And they're like, I don't care. So, do you feel like that plays a part? I just don't wanna set somebody up who's listening to this and they're like, "Oh, well, I've had that feeling and I'm gonna communicate that to someone," and then the person who's receiving it goes, "I don't care what you're feeling. We're moving forward with this conversation." We don't wanna put somebody in that position, so just thought I'd ask the question.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could happen, even as much as we would like to not put people in that situation. It just may occur. And there's really not being so influenced by the external to determine your internal.
Mhm.
That's where that plays a key part in the way that I feel about that. But also,
But also
it exponentially helps to have a partner or someone in your life, in my case, you, my lovey, and who can understand it and give me space. In that moment, I didn't feel judged. In that moment, I didn't quite feel understood in terms of what I was saying. I totally understand that it was not coming out. So if it were flipped, I would be in the same spot that you were. But I felt understood from a deeper level, like from a soul level of you saying, okay, hey, I don't understand what he's saying, but I understand where he's at. And I can honor and hold space for that and not take anything personal right now, recognizing that it is simply a moment and not who this is. And it is no longer a marker to define this person. And therefore, I'm going to adjust my behavior because this is occurring. Instead, I'm going to shift and hold space and let him regroup. And so, having a safe, loving space like that from a partner is beyond a gift.